All right. Just let the record reflect that we've come out of attorney-client session. Okay. And as a result of attorney-client session, on the advice of counsel, I have a resolution to declare intent to be lead agency. All right. Whereas the Village of Monroe Planning Board is considering action on a proposed site plan application and special use permit application submitted by 59 Gilbert Street Realty LLC for construction of an accessory warehouse located at 59 Gilbert Street, SBL 201-1-2.21. And whereas a short form environmental assessment form dated May 16th, 2022 and revised February 24th, 2025 was submitted. And whereas after comparing the thresholds contained in 6 NYCRR 617.4 and 5, the planning board has determined that the proposed action is an unlisted action. And whereas after examining the EAF, the planning board has determined that the following agencies are involved or interested agencies for the purposes of seeker: Monroe Zoning Board of Appeals, Monroe DPW, Orange County Department of Planning, and Monroe Fire District. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board makes the following findings. The proposed action is subject to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The action may involve one or more other agencies. The action is preliminarily classified as an unlisted action pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617. Coordinated review is appropriate. Be it further resolved that the planning board declares its intent to be lead agency for the review of this action. Be it further resolved that the planning board clerk shall cause notice of such intent to be circulated in accordance with seeker. Be it further resolved that a determination of significance will be made at such time as all information has been received by the planning board to enable it to determine whether or not the action will or will not have a significant effect on the environment. Before I ask for that motion, as I've read it, the planning board in attorney-client discussed the status of the violation, its obligations to proceed on the application, and just note that the adoption of this resolution is attached with a recommendation that your client strongly consider removing the building, given the nature of the project. But with that said, I would ask for a motion to declare intent to be lead agent.
Okay, so any discussion from the board at all? Okay, all right, so somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Member Kelly, second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Member Hefnecker? And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so there's lead agency.
Going, just to be able to pass the information along to my client.
Sure.
We talked before, we can't take it down without a demo permit. We can't get a demo permit without a plan approval. Can I go out tomorrow and just start taking the building down?
I would suggest,
If you hide, you don't tell anybody, and
No.
do it the same way the building went up, you'll probably be fine.
If you want to do it on a weekend and at night, no problem.
Anytime, that always works.
I don't want to commit as the code enforcement officers or independent officers, but what I would suggest, knowing that Mr. Schurzek and Mr. Watson are here, that should your client choose to take the building down, that they call him in advance of taking it down, because again, there is no demo permit. Your client would also be expected to restore the site where it was disturbed. So I would, if the plan was also so that the building department knows, and when we get the calls saying, oh my God, they're doing, the bulldozers are at the site, that the building department is aware of it, and whether any of them, do you gentlemen have any objection to that? So, because you can't really issue a demo permit.
Wouldn't that bring them back before us for the equipment over?
No, because there's no,
There's no building.
But there's
and they're
equip-
they're not grading. No, they're taking, Jeff, don't overcomplicate it.
I'm not, I'm just want to make sure that they're going to do it all the right way.
Well,
If they did that.
they have to,
This tent is built on a pre-existing paved parking lot. There's not a lot of restoration to do. It's take down and take down, if he decides to do that.
that I
So
will,
I don't see a need to have bulldozers out where the neighbors are
Right,
gonna
so.
go.
that I will
moot
defer to
point.
Mr. Pace. So if he agrees with that, that's ultimately his call. what I would suggest is if you're, again, if your client is, if that is the path, again, call the building department so that they're aware, and can coordinate it. Ultimately, Mr. Pace is the one that has said, yes, the removal resolves the violation. I will say that if your client chooses to pursue the application to keep the building, your client will be expected to prosecute it in good faith and move the application forward. And there's going to be a fair amount, particularly because of the variances situation and the adjoining of the residential. They're going to have that work. I am still concerned about how they propose movement on site, loading and unloading. They're kind of, the last time he was here without you, it was, oh, we're just going to, oh, it's just a little deal. But again, reviewing the plans, in my mind, it invites trucks to back up and load, unload. So all of that is going to be looked at in pretty good detail. So that's a business decision for your client. This board's recommendation is it would prefer to see the building come down, but we have declared lead agency and we'll circulate that. If your client chooses to take the building, I would suggest you contact Terry so that we put a hold on this application so that you're stopping incurring escrow charges quickly.
So when you're saying take the building down or pursue the application, you're saying take the building down and go away.
That's I can't give your client legal advice. My understanding of the violation is if the building comes down and the site, to the extent it needs to be, and I don't know what that extent is restored, there's nothing for us to approve. If your
Then
client
you would not be allowed to build the proposed building that he's asking for.
No, you'd resubmit.
Well, if he your client is always welcome to submit any application he wishes for a building permit, or for, excuse me, a planning board application. With respect to this instant violation, he has two choices. He can try to get it approved. That road, because of the nature of where the lot is in relation to other things, that road is going to have multiple steps. It's going to have a ZBA appearance. There's going to be some time, money, effort to get that approval. Your client can also remove the building and restore the site. Those are the two paths to solve the violation. From the planning board's perspective, we don't care how the violation is resolved other than it being resolved. Based on what we see, however, the planning board is saying that they would, I should strike that last sentence that I just said. The current building is going to be problematic, and if your client is not going to pursue it
Vigorously.
he may be put in a position where the building has to come down anyway. So that's a business decision for your client. I can't give him legal advice. And certainly, I'm happy to speak to Frank Pace about it more.
Well, I guess that's where I'm not clear, is if the taking down the existing building is a condition to continue with the process that we're already trying to do? Or
No,
if it's in lieu of?
it's in lieu of,
In lieu of, yeah.
in lieu of.
It's an option. So, like, is there plumbing on the site? Is there running water, septic, electric, sewer? So they hooked up to the sewer lines from that?
They have not. We have proposed connections to water and sewer on the plan now.
I mean, they're using the building now, like, do they have a porta potty on the
This is a
site or
tent.
something?
Yeah, so John, I think some of what, before you came on, when we were talking to the applicant and so
Yeah,
forth,
but it was like,
everything was trying to get jury rigged. Well, you can't use the loading zone because it's against the code. So you'd have to go for variance in anyway. You can't use the building as is. He said, I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna use a machine and, drop it here and we'll carry stuff back there. Like, who's gonna do that, right? And then you're gonna have code enforcement.
That is actually realistic with what he does.
Okay.
Have a bundle of pipe come and put that on a forklift and drive it up the hill. Not that
Right.
big of a deal.
Yeah, okay, well, I just think the way it's conditioned right now, I don't know what Elizabeth would have to speak to this, what you'd have to do with the accessory building being larger,
That's a variance.
so there's another
That, there,
variance.
it's two, it's, right now, it's at least two, if not three, but
Right.
two.
So, it's problematic, the whole thing as it stands, you know what I mean? So, but. you
Yeah,
can-
John, I just want to clarify, you said it was a tent. My understanding is it's a steel frame warehouse.
Proposed, correct.
Is this the actual location, John, of the
Ron, what's up
existing?
there now, or
Just
Chris?
this little
Is
bit?
This is the
Is it a
existing,
tent, or is it
existing
steel
temporary
frame?
structure, and that's what we're proposing.
That I saw, it was
But
just, I was
material
looking
was
at the
made.
dashed lines. 'cause
So
I didn't-
this is what's in violation?
This is what's in violation,
So it's material.
this is an existing parking lot.
Okay,
It's what?
Underneath this is asphalt.
So that, why don't you just take that down in the interim? If you're still
Well, that-
seeking approval,
see,
I
part
thought
of-
it was a larger building that had gotten put up there.
Well,
Chris,
That's-
can I steal you two for a second? What's in violation? Is it this existing temporary structure or this whole thing? Because they're saying this, he's saying this is a tent. What's the issue, what's in violation?
It
Is
was
it,
all built without a permit, from what I
This-
understand.
the existing structure was built without a permit.
okay, so if this is an
It's got
existing
fire
temporary
issues to this.
structure,
And there's a fire hazard.
if this is an existing temporary structure, why get your client to pull it down and then he can process the approval? I'm thinking it's the larger,
No, that's proposed new building, so it's just that small structure in
There
the
is-
back.
I don't understand why your client wouldn't have taken that down already. If that's the case, take this down and then you can pursue the application.
Well, what I'm hearing is this application is not gonna be approved.
You're not hearing that. You
Well,
haven't-
I can understand, I can understand that
You haven't
sentence.
started your process yet.
Well, Mr. Humbert, that's not quite accurate. But if this is the source of the violation, and it's noted as being removed, why aren't we just removing it? I'm missing something here.
That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Well, I think what they're stating, and what John's stating, I'm wrong. Once this is approved, they're gonna put this building up, that'll be removed.
That was the intent of the plan.
So they wanna leave that building there
So
until
they
such
want their
time as
cake
they
and
get
eat it
the-
too?
but they're not supposed to be using it, why do you wanna leave it there? It can't be used.
Because they have stuff in it and they don't know where to put it.
Yeah, but.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm just letting you know.
No, I know
that's-
that, John. My point is is for the, engineer of the
applicant.
project,
Yeah.
right?
So, I can't give your client legal advice. It seems to me the headache of a whole, I get, we can process this application. You obviously know the difficulties in that application. If this is slated to be removed anyway, I would strongly suggest your client find alternate storage elsewhere, because the headache over a temporary structure that's slated to be removed anyway, does he really want to be in court?
So it's material.
I misunderstood. I thought the violation was on a larger, because if we're here arguing that we're not going to remove a tent,
Is it a membrane structure?
He's got a picture right here, if you look at the picture.
It looks like it's framed probably with something metal.
Yeah, it's tube steel.
Tube steel, right.
Just the fabric over it.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's just a membrane on a tube.
I don't know what he's storing in there. The headache of going to court and dealing with the justice over something that's supposed to be removed anyway. Because once you remove that, if this takes a year, I don't care.
Right, you have a year.
Then you're not getting emails from Mr. Pace going, if you don't submit by such and such date, you can take as long as you want. Because then we don't have a violation breathing down our neck.
The quick fix is take the building down and then you
Then-
can go about your process.
I hear you. My first conversation with Brian Pace was, the project is almost done. There's no reason you can't be done, approved, and have your site plan approval in a few months. It wasn't, you're starting over and we haven't even started commenting on this yet.
Well, that's not, we've had comment letters since, I can't speak for the
I know you
conversation.
have older comment letters, which I've addressed everything in them.
I'm just suggesting, if this comes down, then oh my God, I have to submit by June, the June date, that goes away.
There's been no movement. He's been using the building. He's in active violation. So
Right.
that does not sit well with anybody sitting here. So he can fix this, right? And I don't know why he's not taking the building down unless he's saying, well, I want to use the building, but it's illegal.
Am I missing something?
So that's the point there. So if he takes it down, put his storage someplace else for
Because once
the
there's no violation.
temporary time, and then he can move at breakneck
Yeah.
speed to get everything done,
In the interim.
right? So that's what I'd recommend to him. Because it just seems like he's just
What?
shooting himself in the foot, over and over. So, I don't know. That's my take, John. I don't know.
Okay.
And Chris just commented we're not going to submit that over. So just
The address of this is
59.
59 Gilbert.
So I could pass that along to him.
Right.
I can't tell you what he's gonna do. or
No,
say.
right, we've seen, yeah.
And I have to apologize, I misunderstood, I thought the structured issue was the metal permanent construction. This is the path of least resistance, take this down, and then if he wants to pursue,
So work without permits.
yeah, is that all on this? That's not related to that? Okay,
So junking
You know,
debris
I'm
is
just
where-
here with
To that?
very different answers from both my client and from the village.
I would
as to
say
where
this,
project is.
John, I would say this too. Tell your applicant we'd like to see him come along with you. You could do the speaking on whatever he
I
needs.
don't have any problem telling him to come to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, the changes I've made to this plan since I was told by the village that we were almost done is I shrank the building 20 feet in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
I've addressed every single comment that was previously made, but now I'm feeling.
You're talking about the new building,
Correct.
right? But he's in active violation. And he hasn't shown up in
I
months.
understand that.
Right.
But now tonight, we're talking about the new building is going to be a problem regardless of.
Well, you're still gonna have, because it's next to a residential zone, you have the loading problem, right? The loading zone issue, that's gotta be remedied by the zoning board if they wanna give the variance. It's gonna be much more an issue with the zoning board, because they're looking at stuff on that side, right? So we could look at a building, but if the loading zone can only be so far from a residential zone,
well, what I would suggest, Mr. Chair, is that the removal of that temporary structure, and I do have to apologize, I thought it was the more permanent structure already in.
I thought you knew
By-
this, so I was sorry, yeah, I should have been more clear.
By removing the temporary structure, you untangle the code enforcement process and our process.
Yes,
And then our process can operate independently. There's no discussion of code enforcement, because
Correct.
normally there wouldn't be discussion of code enforcement.
right.
This was a path to it, and like I said,
That's his best, that's his best and fastest
and he
way
can probably.
to come into compliance.
I don't know that he'd get I'm not
He
never
still has
gonna
to- either way,
guarantee
he's
that
gotta-
he's gonna get this plan, but I think this board would feel much better about processing this plan were that temporary structure to come down.
Yeah, and either way, they have to go to the zoning board, whatever you decide.
Right.
So get out of the, right now, out of the violation, right? And then we all move forward.
And then you don't have anybody from the code enforcement department saying you have to submit by here.
Right.
You have 6 months to get this
Yeah,
done.
pushing you, kicking in.
If it take, however long it takes you, it takes you. And, if you need 6 months to get it done, 9 months, whatever,
Right, you have
then
up to a year.
there's less us
And you
carrying.
can get an extension if necessary.
Well, that's after approval.
Oh, yeah.
That's
is-
after approval.
Yeah,
He wouldn't have
No.
he wouldn't have a deadline.
yeah, right.
So we've processed lead agency. We're gonna start that process. I think you're gonna have a conversation with your client. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to me directly. I will have a conversation with Mr. Pace.
Tell him we'd love to invite his presence here. The next meeting.
I can ask him to come, that's
Yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah,
Like I
Okay.
said, my problem is this job is just, I was literally told by my client, the only thing that's needed on the site plan is striping of the parking spaces.
I can tell you for sure, I can tell you for sure, John, he didn't hear that from here.
And I'm not questioning that.
Yeah.
But then I also heard from the village,
Who's
the
who's the village?
Mr. Pace.
Okay, so, okay,
The site plan is substantially done. They haven't gotten the last round of revisions in. Dave Higgins has a letter. Once those comments are addressed, the plan should be done. This should be approvable within several months.
Is that right?
right, but, so our position, well, no, I think that's.
We can't
Listen.
speak for Mr.
No, no,
Pace.
and I wouldn't speak for Mr. Pace or for Mr. Higgins. What I could tell you from our point of view is we don't want to entertain applicants that are in current violation of our codes.
I mean, at that point, I understand
Yeah.
that I'm not arguing.
Right. And that's all right, that's where we sit.
It's really more the overall project, ignoring the violations.
Yeah, and,
I'm trying to get a grasp on.
right, exactly.
I think the
So,
applicant's giving him bad information.
Yes.
Sounds like to me.
right.
Misinformation.
I think I've gotten bad information from both sides, honestly.
And that could be, That's why putting everybody in the same room is really good.
And you have a lot of information to talk to your client about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was a good conversation tonight.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Terry, I'll get you a revised notice.
All right, thank you.
All right, John, thank you. Thanks for taking the hit.
There'll be a bill.
Send it to your client.
Hazard pay?
You too. Okay. I think we have minutes, yeah? We just have to go back through, and you have who was here and who wasn't? So I think there's 4 sets of minutes, 2 in February, 1 in March, 1 in April, I think. And let's see, oh, there they are. So who was not here?
February 10th.
Yeah, who was not present?
Keith was absent.
So Keith, you can abstain on this. And what do we got, 4 then? So we need someone to make a motion to approve, assuming you've all read them, the February 10th, 25 meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
Hefnicker and Kelly, all in favor, except 1 abstention?
Aye.
Okay, and opposed? Okay, that's passed. Our 225 minutes,
Marilyn and Barbara were not here.
and they're still not here. So everybody here can vote on that. So 225 minutes, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, member Allen
Second.
and member Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? They pass. March 10th,
Marilyn and Paul are absent.
okay, you're an abstainer. And so 310,
March 10th,
March 10th.
59 Gilman Street was here.
How exciting.
If they were.
Yeah, they were here then, right? So, well, we need an approval of the minutes. So does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion.
Member Kelly? And
I'll second.
member Allen? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? They carry. And 4-7.
Joe and Barbara were not here.
Okay, Joe, you're an abstainer.
Okay.
So we need a motion for the,
I'll make the motion.
member Kelly,
I'll second.
member Heffernan, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved.
Nice cold pizza right there. Is that leftover?
Did they adjourn?
Motion.
They're gonna make a
Jeff.
motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
That was Fred,
Fred, second.
right here.
Keith, all in favor? You're all free to go.
Thank you for your input, that was helpful.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.